Time for another edition of our NFL Draft Countdown with the great, the one and only, the man has not slept, Dane Brugler from The Athletic, of course, author of The Beast. You can follow him on social media at DP Brugler. Our countdown to the NFL Draft brought to you by Georgetown's Tavern Beer, easy drinking, domestic-style lager made with Pacific Northwest barley and Yakima Valley hops, 4.2% brewed by our good friends at Georgetown Brewery, makers of Manny's Pale Ale, Bodie's Alpha IPA, Rogers Pilsner. I don't know if I can, but if I can, I will ship you some for the day after the draft when it's over, so you can enjoy.
Yeah, that sounds. I mean, I do really enjoy the draft. I don't want to make it sound like I don't, but the idea of we put it to bed, be able to sip one of that sounds pretty nice. Yeah.
Well, it's long. I mean, it's hard work what you do.
It is.
It just is. It's time consuming. You put so much effort into it, not just writing for The Athletic and The Beast, but all the different shows and podcasts that you're doing. Speaking of the Beast, I'm just going to say it's not going unnoticed, Dane. Speaking of the Beast, it comes out Wednesday, correct?
It does. First thing in the morning, it should be available. And this year is pretty cool because in the past, it's just been a PDF. This year, it will still be a PDF, but there's also it's also very web friendly, mobile friendly on the Athletic website. So if your preference is to download it on a PDF, get it printed, we made sure and have that option for you. But if you are going to be primarily getting all the information on your phone, your tablet, or even on your computer, we're gonna have a kind of like a micro site on the Athletics website where it's very easy to navigate, search by players, by position. It's really cool the amount of resources we put behind everything this year. So I think readers and fans are going to be really impressed.
Very cool. All right, so as we look at this right now, we're less than 3 weeks away from the draft getting underway. Dane, has anything changed at the top? What do you think? Any movement in the top 5 picks? As we sit here now, is it still no doubt about it, Cam Ward's number 1?
It'd be a big surprise if we don't see Cam Ward go number 1 overall. And you never say never. Could the Giants come in with a huge offer to move up to number 1? You never rule it out. At the combine, I think it became pretty clear Cam Ward is going to be the number 1 overall pick. It's just a matter of, would it be for the Titans or would it be a different team? And as we get closer to the draft, I think it becomes pretty clear the Titans are perfectly fine sticking and picking. And I get it. If you asked me at the combine, if the Giants had offered a first, a third, multiple picks to move up, I would have said, you take the offer. You go back, you get more picks. You're still at pick number 3, so you're still going to get a premier player. But when you look at, what is the Titans' avenue for a quarterback? If you believe Cam Ward can develop into a top 14 quarterback in the NFL, you have to take him, because what else is your avenue to a quarterback if you're Tennessee? You think about, they're really, since Steve McNair, they haven't had a quarterback that is someone they can, really believe in to lead them to the playoffs. So I think this is their opportunity to kind of turn the page to a new chapter. And Cam Ward, I think there's enough belief in Tennessee that he could be that guy.
Did Shedduer Sanders and his workout in Boulder change anyone's opinion of him? Did it move him up? Did it move him down? Did it keep him even where he's been all along?
I think, the latter. I've yet to talk to somebody who was moved one way or the other based off of how he worked out. And really, to be honest, that's how most quarterback pro days are. Rarely does a quarterback, honestly, I don't even know why we have quarterback throwing pro days anymore. I understand why we have pro days to get some of the information and see some guys work out, especially if they didn't work out at the combine. I get that. But some of these quarterback throwing sessions, they're so organized to the point where you're just not learning all that much when you're throwing against air. There's no defense, obviously. So we know he can spin it. We know it's not an A+ arm. We know it's closer to average, but you know what? That's what the tape says. So everything he did at his workout kind of backed up what we thought going in, what the tape said. And if you believe Shador Sanders is a top 5 pick going in, I'm sure you're still believing that. If you didn't, then I don't think anything happened to persuade you otherwise.
What is the thought process from those who cover the draft, NFL personnel? What would be the negative? Well, let me start. Let's be glass half full here. Sorry, Dane. What's the positive of Shedeur Sanders, of why people would take him? And then what are the things that would cause teams to have reservations about selecting?
He's a very polished player. You can tell this is a guy that's been playing quarterback a long time, and he's worked at it. Strong, balanced base, very clean stroke. He's accurate. He's not as accurate as 74% completion percentage would lead you to believe, because just such a high percentage of his throws were just screens and quick throws. So I think that's a little misleading, but he is still generally an accurate thrower of the football. I think he throws really well in rhythm with the RPO game, quick game. There's a smart savviness to his decision-making process, and no one's going to question his toughness. He will stand in there, make the throw. And I think he also deserves credit when you look at Colorado as a 1-11 team the year before Coach Prime took over and Shedeur transferred in. The last 2 years with Shedeur as starting quarterback, Colorado has a winning record, 13-11. That's not easy to do. So, and it's not just the quarterback. There are plenty of other reasons, including Travis Hunter, who, in my opinion, is the best player in the draft. But the quarterback deserves plenty of that too, because of what he was able to do in the Big 12. So those are the positives. The negatives, what I keep coming back to, the way he likes to play, it's just going to be tough to do in the NFL with his average physical traits. He's average size, average arm, average athlete, and that's fine. But with the way he likes to play, it's a lot of drifting. It's if it's not quick game, then it gets a little bit up in the air about his decision making process. So there's some things about the way he likes to play that I have question marks about. And when you watch the tape and you see, okay, the three best defenses he faced this year: Kansas State, Nebraska, BYU. All three were average to below average performances by him, and for different reasons. Yes, he played behind a bad offensive line. The running game was suspect. But, as a quarterback, you're putting yourself in some bad positions as well. So, there's plenty of question marks, and you understand why he's a divisive, and we're not even going to talk about off the field or anything like that. Just what the tape says, you can understand why some evaluators will look at that and see the positives. Some evaluators look at it and see question marks. So I think it's easy to see both sides, and that's what makes him such a wild card on draft night. Is he going to go 3rd to the Giants, 9 to the Saints, or are we going to see him fall a little bit? It's going to make for a really interesting draft night.
Speaking of his teammate, Dane, Travis Hunter, the money will say that he's going to be a wide receiver. What he did at the pro day will say he's going to be a wide receiver. When you draft him, whoever drafts him, how do they look at it? Do they look at it as we are getting a starting wide receiver and then a guy that we could sneak on the field on defense on 3rd down? What's the thought process from NFL teams when they evaluate Travis Hunter? And what do you think his best position is? Is it wide receiver or is it a defensive back?
And I think it's interesting debate where I don't think it's a right or wrong. I think a lot of teams look at it from the standpoint of, I want to be more explosive on offense. Give me the guy that's going to help bump up the score. And so you're looking at him as a wide receiver. And I totally understand that. He was wide receiver 1 in this class. Personally, and a lot of teams agree with me, I see his highest ceiling on the football field as a corner and what he can do on the defensive side of the ball. This year, you watch him play, he gave up 2 catches of 20-plus yards all year. He loves to mix things up, but he doesn't go too far. He didn't have a single coverage penalty this year. His ball instincts and the reasons that make him so productive on offense, that shows on defense as well, taking the football away. So I think his ceiling is sky high on defense. I also think it's easier for him to be a full-time defensive player, and then you sneak in 25-ish snaps a game on offense, as opposed to the inverse, where he's a full-time offensive player and you're trying to get him on the field in defensive situations. I think it's just easier doing it the other way, where he's going to be a full-time primarily a defensive player, and then you don't take that offensive side away from him. You get 25 packages a game, 8 to 10 touches a game, and I still think you're getting the best of both worlds, where you're getting a guy that has a chance to be a premier corner, but also getting an explosive playmaker on offense. I mean, there's a reason we've never really seen that, and we've seen guys attempt to do it, but not with any type of consistency. But a lot of teams are open-minded to him doing both, and because he did it in college, and his profile says that he can do it. So it's going to be exciting to see.
Do you think his people, his agent, people that are around him, will try to get information from the teams before they draft him and tell them draft him as a wide receiver? Because clearly, when he gets paid, he'll get paid a lot more as a wide receiver versus a defensive back. Do you think he wants language, a commitment, assurances from these teams when they draft him?
Yeah, and that's something that's been talked about. But it's important for teams to understand what he wants. If I'm the Browns and I'm considering him at number 2, the Browns need so much help on offense. And so, I think that would make some sense. But, I at the same time, I don't want to lose what he brings on defense. And so of course, what Travis Hunter says is he wants to play both. And so if you draft Travis Hunter, you better be able to make sure that you're in lockstep with what he wants, because he is saying he wants to play both. And I think you need to make sure you have a plan for that to happen before you draft him. So I don't think it's something proactive that maybe Travis Hunter's doing on his side, but I think it's something that NFL teams need to be, in the top 5 picks, the teams that realistically have a shot at him, they need to make sure they have a plan in place for, okay, if we draft you, this is what we want to play you both ways, and it's going to look a little different, but this is the way we want to get it done. So I think there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just making sure you have a plan in place.
Speaking of who they want and what teams want, what is Seattle? What do you think they want at 18?
Well, obviously, picking in, just kind of like last year, picking in the middle of that first round, you're just not sure those first 15 picks are going to play out, especially in a year like this where we don't really have 10, no doubt about it, top 10 picks, right? Where we know these 10 guys will be off the boards. We know 5 or 6 guys will be off the board, but then it's going to be I wouldn't be surprised if we see some surprises in terms of who's going to be drafted. So the Seahawks have to be ready for a lot. And, we know the Seahawks needs. We know, they need interior offensive line. We know they need another corner. They could go with another receiver if they wanted to. We know they need a nose tackle. We know that they want more, get younger and add more tools at the edge position. There are just so many different ways they could go. Do they see an interior offensive lineman, a guard, that they feel comfortable taking there at 18? I think that becomes maybe the focus. At least that's what makes the most sense. When you look at their depth chart, you look at, okay, how do we get better? So you're looking at Tyler Booker from Alabama, Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. Do either one of those two guys fit exactly what we want to be on offense? And so I think it starts there. And then after that, then you get into some of these more interesting defensive players, like Jihad Campbell from Alabama, who maybe it's not the number one glaring need for this team, but in the first round, you want to take impact players. And a guy like Jihad Campbell can be that type of guy. Is there a corner that they really like there? Could Will Johnson from Michigan be in the mix? So, yeah, the Seahawks could go in a lot of different ways, but I think it really starts with that interior offensive line spot.
From your evaluation with Zabel and Booker, who do you think it has the potential to be better in the program?
I think they're very different, and that's what makes it interesting with Seattle, because you see, okay, their offense and the way they want to be on offense. You're looking at more, zone and movement, and so I think when you look at it that way, you're going to want the better athlete, which is Gray Zabel, a guy that played left tackle at North Dakota State. You love the footwork. He played literally all 4 positions except for center. He had multiple starts at all 4 offensive line positions. And so, you feel good about, it's not a true, yes, he played mostly tackle, but it's not a true projection because you can throw on the tape and see him play guard. But awesome athlete, really balanced in the way he moves. He's on the fly. He looks really good. So balanced not only in his stance, but also on the move. He was not afraid to use his hands, stun, snatch defenders. He can move guys in the run game when he gets underneath them, uses his leverage, and he's just very consistent in pass pro. So I think that there's a reason we see Gray Zabel mocked to Seattle quite a bit. I think it makes sense. The player also makes sense with the fit. And that's not not to say that Tyler Booker is not a good player. I just think the fit and what they like to do. Tyler Booker, you're looking for more of a pure gap scheme, power scheme, where it's not going to be as much movement as we expect to see from Seattle this year.
Let's just work in a hypothetical world, and I don't even know if this is the case, but let's just say that they're both are gone at 18. There's no Booker, there's no Zabel. What's the drop-off like?
Specifically at interior offensive line?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it depends on how you see some of these potential tackles moving inside to guard, like a Kelvin Banks from Texas, who played nothing but left tackle at Texas. Personally, I think he's better inside. Just looking at his body type, the strengths of his game, I would like to see him move inside to guard. Some teams, they have him at tackle. Other teams have him inside at guard. So I think it depends on how Seattle sees some of these potential tackle to guard projections, like a Kelvin Banks. He could be there in that mix. But I do think once you get to day two, it opens up a little bit with different options, especially at guard. I really like Tate Ratledge from Georgia. Big, physical, but also can move. He's a good athlete. He would make sense. Jonas Ovanaya from Arizona, big, played tackle out of necessity, but probably more of a guard. Another guy that has size, but can move a little bit as well. So if the Seahawks don't go interior offensive line in that first round, I think in the second round, they will have several options, especially when they have those 2 second-round picks that they could kind of go in different directions.
Yeah. Speaking of those 2 second-round picks, what direction what quarterbacks, if they were to go in that direction? Everyone loves talking about quarterbacks, right? And this is a team that, yes, they've got Sam Darnold, but it's a team-friendly deal. You can really look at it as a 1-year contract, Dane, so it doesn't certainly prevent them from drafting a quarterback in that second round. With one of those 2 picks, who do you think would still be around if they decided to dip their toes in that quarterback room?
Tyler Shuck from Texas Tech, formerly of Texas Tech, now from Louisville this past year. I think he's the most interesting of this group. If he were 22 years old and didn't have the injury history he did, we'd be talking about maybe Seattle at 18. We'd be talking about him as a first-round pick. It's just he's a very unique player because he will be a 26-year-old rookie. He does have several season-ending injuries. This past year at Louisville, 2024, the first time in his 7 years in college, he played more than 8 games in a season. So, how do you teams are they differ on how you take that information and what does it really mean? And how do you apply that to where you feel comfortable drafting a player like Tyler Shuck? Because on the field, okay, you see prototypical size. He's got passing twitch. The ball explodes off his hand. Good athlete as well, where he's not a statue back there. And there's just a lot of things to like about him as a pure passer and as a quarterback prospect. So I think every team looks at it a little bit differently, and he might be off the board by the time Seattle's even picking in the second round. But he would make the most sense if Seattle wanted to go in that direction where, hey, let's not only take a swing on a Sam Darnold, why not take a swing on a guy like this with one of our day 2 picks, and let's just throw a couple darts at our quarterback options, and just we're helping our odds of one of these things panning out for the future.
From an evaluation standpoint, let me backtrack. From a team personnel standpoint, once you get past the first round, I mean, we all expect that to be a starter. When you're a team like Seattle and you have those picks, you've got a second-round pick, 50 and 52, and a third-round pick in 82. So 3 picks between 50 and 82. What are teams trying to get out of that? Is that all starters? We talking backups? Like, what's the goal there?
Yeah, I mean, I was always taught that your top 100 picks are starters, and even if it's not a starter from day one, it's someone that projects as a starter very early in their careers. And every team has some teams have their philosophy that we don't draft backups. Period. We draft only guys that we have starter grades on, even into the 6th and 7th rounds. And so every team looks at it a little bit differently. And I think that, we have to be open-minded to how every team's different, a little bit different with their packages and personnel, and some teams will use 3 safeties. Some teams will include their third pass rusher as basically a starter because of the way they like to use their pressure packages, where it's not just on third downs but sometimes on second downs. And because the NFL, and we talk about passing downs, every down's a passing down in the NFL these days. So, the third pass rusher is a starter for some teams. And so I think every team looks at it a little bit differently. And I think they're smart too. The game is always evolving. And so the draft and the hypotheticals and the way we look at different philosophies of how teams like to draft and how they prioritize. And if you were just to rank 1 through 22, the most important starting positions on your roster, the top's going to look pretty similar from team to team. But then I think it gets a little interesting. Some teams might even have, like I said, that third pass rusher at number 10. So every team looks at it a little bit differently, and that could adjust maybe the certain positions you're targeting in that second and third round.
Well, we're getting closer to the NFL draft. The beast in which Dane Brugler puts out every single year will come out on Wednesday. You have to have an Athletic subscription to get it. It comes in a PDF form, but as Dane just said at the beginning of the show, it's also going to be interactive, web-friendly up at theathletic.com. Go get a membership. Go sign up and get a subscription. It's money well worth spent, let alone just for the beast that's going to be coming out on Wednesday. Dane Brugler with us, breaking down the NFL draft, all brought to you by Georgetown's Tavern Beer. And again, easy drinking, domestic-style lager made with Pacific Northwest barley and Yakima Valley hops, 4.2%, brewed by our good friends at Georgetown Brewery, makers of Manny's Pale Ale, Bodie's Off IPA, Rogers Pilsner, Georgetown's Tavern Beer, and a case of that being sent to Dane so he can drink all of it once the draft is over. All right? Catch up some sleep if you can. Thank you as always, and we'll talk soon. And again, more episodes leading up to the NFL draft. Thanks, Dane.
All right, looking forward to it. Thanks, Puck.